Have you ever wondered why sometimes you can date someone for months, even years, and they still don't seem to know if you're the one? Meanwhile, you hear stories of couples who just knew after a few weeks. It's easy to think it's all about luck or timing, but in reality, there are specific moments, specific qualities that flip a switch in a man's mind. Moments when he stops seeing you as just someone he's dating and starts seeing you as someone he can't imagine life without. Most women are told, just be yourself, or the right man will know. While there's some truth to that, it's not the full story. Attraction, chemistry, even love. They're important, but they're not what lock in a man's vision of you as a life partner. A man falls in love with how he feels about himself when he's with you. He sees a future with the woman who brings out the strongest, deepest, most authentic version of himself, not just the one who's beautiful, charming, or fits some checklist. Today I want to break down 3 incredibly powerful things that instantly trigger that shift in a man's heart. These aren't tricks or games. They're natural extensions of who you are when you're showing up with genuine confidence and emotional intelligence. Because here's the truth. It's not about being the most impressive woman he's ever met. It's about being the woman he can't stop imagining a life with. And that doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you create moments that make him feel safe, inspired, and deeply connected. Moments that hint at the kind of life he would have with you. Now, this is where most people get it wrong. They focus on impressing, showing how successful they are, how much they can offer, or how fun they are to be around. But men don't marry resumes. They marry feelings. They choose the person who taps into their emotions on a level that feels rare and irreplaceable. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who on paper was perfect, but you just didn't feel it? It wasn't that they weren't good enough. It's that something essential was missing. That something is what we're going to talk about. And the best part? You don't need to become someone else to create it. You don't need to perform, you just need to understand the small but powerful ways you can show up differently, ways that make a man realize, almost instantly, this is the woman I want to build my life with. Whether you're starting something new, or you've been seeing someone for a while and want to deepen that connection, these 3 things are your secret weapons. They cut through the noise, the uncertainty, the endless situationships, and get to the heart of what really makes a man see you not just as his girlfriend, but as his future wife. When we talk about what makes a man see you as his future wife, there's something that sits right at the core of it all: emotional safety. It's not flashy, it's not something you can show off on a first date, but it's the thing that makes a man breathe easier when he's around you, the thing that makes him come back to you even when life is chaotic and messy. Emotional safety isn't about agreeing with everything he says. It's not about pretending to be okay with things that actually bother you. It's about creating a space where he feels like he can be real and still be loved. When a man feels judged, when he feels like he's constantly trying to impress you, or worse, when he feels like he's one mistake away from losing you, he can never relax. And if he can't relax, he can't fully open up. Without openness, there's no intimacy. Without intimacy, there's no future. A lot of people think the key to being chosen is to be endlessly impressive, to always be perfect, to never show frustration or sadness. But real connection doesn't come from perfection. It comes from feeling accepted in imperfection. Picture it. He's had a rough day. Work was stressful. He feels like he's failed in some way. Maybe he's not as communicative as you'd like. Maybe he seems a little distant. In that moment, you have 2 options. You can snap at him, criticize him for not showing up the way you need, make it about you. Or you can lean back, breathe, and recognize that this moment isn't about you. It's about him needing to feel safe. It's about giving him the space to be human without fearing punishment. This doesn't mean tolerating bad behavior. If someone consistently shows you they aren't capable of being a good partner, that's a different conversation. But a man who's genuinely trying, who's doing his best even when he falls short, he notices when you offer grace instead of judgment. He feels it. He may not even be able to articulate it, but it goes straight into the emotional memory bank where lifelong bonds are built. Emotional safety also means you listen without immediately jumping in to fix. You know that feeling when you're telling someone something vulnerable and they immediately start problem solving instead of just hearing you? It feels like they're uncomfortable with your feelings. They want to feel that you see their struggle and you're not trying to rush them out of it because it makes you uncomfortable. Sometimes just sitting there and saying, "That sounds really hard. I'm sorry you're going through that," is 1,000 times more powerful than any advice you could give. Another layer to this is allowing him to express emotions outside the traditional acceptable male range of anger or pride. So many men have been conditioned to hide sadness, fear, shame. If he shows you a softer side, admits he's scared, admits he feels like a failure, shares a childhood wound, and you meet that moment with warmth instead of recoil, you've just created an experience he probably doesn't get anywhere else. And experiences like that aren't forgettable. They're what build emotional addiction, the good kind. The kind where he craves the feeling of coming back to you because it feels like coming home. It's easy to offer emotional safety when everything's going smoothly. It's much harder when you're triggered, when your own needs aren't being perfectly met in the moment. But that's when it matters most. That's when it becomes a choice to be your highest self. Not just when it's convenient, but when it actually costs you a little. You have to be able to hold your boundaries and hold space for his emotion. You have to be able to say, "I didn't love how that made me feel," without making him feel like he's a bad person. It's not about pretending things are okay when they're not. It's about communicating without shaming, correcting without condemning. That's what emotional safety looks like in practice. There's also a piece here around allowing him to step into his masculinity without making him feel controlled or belittled. A lot of men carry hidden fears about not being enough, not strong enough, not successful enough, not good enough. If he feels like he's constantly being measured against some impossible standard, he won't feel like he can win with you. He'll either shut down or slowly start to check out. But if he feels like he's enough right now, not for what he does, but for who he is, he relaxes into the relationship. He starts wanting to bring you deeper into his world, to show you the parts of himself he's usually afraid to reveal. You become the exception, the one he doesn't have to perform for, the one who sees him as a man, flaws and all, and chooses him anyway. And that choice becomes powerful because it's not coming from a place of need. You're not staying because you're desperate. You're not tolerating behavior that hurts you. You're not putting him on a pedestal. You're seeing him clearly, the good, the bad, the complicated. And you're standing there with open eyes and an open heart. That kind of love makes a man stand up straighter. It makes him want to be better, not because you're demanding it, but because he feels inspired by the way you believe in him. Part of emotional safety is also knowing how to manage your own emotional reactions. It's not about being a doormat. It's not about silencing yourself. It's about being able to feel triggered, to feel upset, and still choose a response that builds connection rather than tearing it down. When you can say, "I'm feeling hurt right now," instead of "you're such a jerk for doing that," you shift the energy. You invite collaboration instead of defense. You invite a solution instead of a battle. It's tempting to think, if he really loved me, he would never upset me. But relationships aren't perfect. Even two people who love each other deeply will hurt each other sometimes. Emotional safety means recognizing that conflict doesn't mean disaster. It means learning to fight in a way that strengthens the bond rather than breaking it. It means choosing curiosity over criticism. Asking, "Help me understand why you did that," instead of, "I can't believe you would do that to me." When you create a foundation of emotional safety, it's not just about what happens when things are hard, it's also about how much deeper the good moments feel. When a man feels safe with you, he can fully let go. He can be playful, romantic, goofy, creative. He can bring all of himself to the relationship because he knows he won't be punished for being human. And that's where the magic happens. That's when a relationship stops being just about chemistry or logistics and starts becoming about two people building something real, something that feels almost inevitable. This doesn't mean being endlessly patient with someone who isn't meeting you halfway. Emotional safety is a two-way street. You can create the conditions for connection, but you can't force someone to meet you there. Your job isn't to rescue someone from their emotional unavailability. It's to be the kind of person who makes emotional intimacy possible, and then to choose someone who's willing and able to step into it with you. In the early stages of dating, emotional safety is often tested in small ways. How you respond when plans fall through, how you handle a conversation where he opens up about something personal, how you react when he disappoints you. These micro moments add up. They create a track record in his mind of how he feels around you. He starts associating you with calm instead of chaos, warmth instead of criticism, openness instead of pressure. One of the most magnetic things you can ever do in dating, and ultimately in a relationship, is to have clear personal standards. Not just knowing them, but living by them unapologetically. Standards are not rules you impose on someone else. They're not about trying to control a man's behavior. They're about the quiet, powerful message you send about who you are, what you value, and what you will or won't allow into your life. Well, when a man sees a woman live in her standards consistently, without drama, without begging, without trying to convince anyone to meet them, it's electrifying. It makes him sit up straighter. It makes him realize, without needing to be told, that you are a woman of real worth. There's a huge difference between preferences and standards. A preference might be wanting a guy who's tall, funny, loves hiking. A standard is about the core values you need from someone in order to build a healthy relationship. Things like respect, honesty, consistency, emotional availability. Standards are non-negotiable because they protect your peace, your heart, your future. They are the boundaries that keep you from shrinking yourself to fit into relationships that don't deserve you. They're not about being high maintenance. They're about maintaining yourself at a high level of self-respect. The problem is that sometimes, especially when we really like someone, it's tempting to get flexible with our standards, to explain things away, to make excuses, to think, well, maybe it's not that big of a deal, or maybe I'm asking for too much. But every time you compromise a core standard, you teach someone how to treat you. You send a silent message that says, you can do less. I'll still be here. It chips away at your self-respect. And worse, it chips away at how they view you. When a man sees a woman who knows her value and doesn't flinch when someone tests it, it's incredibly attractive. Not because she's playing hard to get, not because she's creating artificial drama, but because she's radiating true confidence. The kind that doesn't need to be loud or performative. The kind that says, I know what I bring to the table. I'm not afraid to eat alone if I have to. That energy is rare. And in a world full of people who are willing to settle just to not be alone, it stands out like a beacon. Living by your standards doesn't mean you never feel tempted. It doesn't mean you're cold or unapproachable. It means that when temptation comes, when the guy you really like cancels plans last minute for the third time, when he disappears for a few days and comes back with flimsy excuses, when he refuses to have real conversations about where things are going, you don't abandon yourself to stay connected to him. You don't let chemistry or potential make you betray what you know in your gut. You stay rooted. You stay loyal to yourself first. This isn't about punishing a man when he falls short. People aren't perfect. But there's a big difference between making room for human mistakes and allowing patterns that show a lack of respect. The first time someone crosses a boundary, it's a data point. The second time, it's a decision point. Are you going to let it slide, hoping it will magically fix itself? Or are you going to show, through your actions, what you're willing and unwilling to accept? What's powerful is that you don't have to make long speeches about it. You don't have to create a big scene. You just be the standard. If someone disrespects your time, you don't launch into a monologue about valuing time. You simply become less available to them. If someone plays games with your feelings, you don't try harder to win them over. You redirect your energy to people who treat you with care. Action is always louder than words, and when you act consistently in alignment with your standards, it sends a clear, unmistakable signal. Having standards also means you don't fall into the trap of over-investing in someone who hasn't earned that investment yet. It's easy to get caught up in showing someone how amazing you are, to think, if I just prove I'm different, if I just love him enough, he'll realize how special this is. But that's not how healthy relationships are built. You don't earn love by convincing. You don't secure a future by giving more than you're getting, hoping they'll catch up. You meet effort with effort. You meet consistency with consistency. You match emotional availability. You don't manufacture it. When you have clear standards, you move through dating with a different energy. You're not anxiously waiting to be chosen. You're doing the choosing. You're observing instead of just performing. You're asking yourself real questions. Does this man treat me with respect? Does he follow through? Does he create emotional security? Is he aligned with the kind of relationship I want to build? You're not just asking, do I like him? You're asking, is he showing me through his actions that he's capable of showing up in the ways that matter? Men feel this. They feel when a woman isn't desperate for attention, when she's not molding herself into whatever version she thinks will be most appealing. They feel when she's coming from abundance, not scarcity. And ironically, that energy makes you more attractive. Not because you're playing games, but because you're communicating at every level, I am complete. You're welcome to join me. But if you can't meet me where I am, I'm willing to walk away. That willingness to walk, not as a threat, but as a truth, is one of the most powerful positions you can ever hold. There's also a deeper beauty to living by your standards. It protects your softness. It protects your ability to love fully. Because when you know you're not staying in situations that chip away at your dignity, you can stay open without fear. You can give love freely, knowing you will never have to betray yourself to keep it. You can express affection, vulnerability, devotion, all the beautiful things without the bitter aftertaste of resentment, because you know you're choosing someone who's rising to meet you. This is the opposite of playing hard to get. Playing hard to get is manipulation. It's pretending to be unavailable when you're actually not. Having standards is real. It's about being unavailable to people who don't treat you the way you deserve to be treated. It's about not confusing chemistry with compatibility. It's about not getting attached to potential while ignoring reality. Potential can be intoxicating, but reality is what you're going to live with. And reality shows itself through actions, not words. If a man is serious about you, he will rise to meet your standards, not resent you for having them. A man who's ready for something real will be drawn to the clarity you bring. He may even feel a little intimidated at first, not because you're harsh, but because it's rare to meet someone so secure, so unwilling to settle for crumbs. That intimidation, if he's the right man, will quickly turn into admiration. It will make him want to level up, not because you forced him to, but because he wants to be worthy of the woman he sees in front of him. When you live by your standards, you don't fear losing someone who isn't aligned. You know that the right connection can't be lost by maintaining your integrity, and the wrong connection isn't worth keeping through compromise. You stop clinging, you stop chasing, you start allowing. You trust that when you honor yourself, the people who are meant for you will recognize it, and the ones who don't were never truly capable of giving you the love you deserve anyway. There's something deeply peaceful about that way of living. It takes you out of the exhausting cycle of trying to control outcomes. It frees you from the anxiety of constantly analyzing someone else's behavior, because your focus is back where it belongs, on how you show up, on what you accept, on how you protect and honor your own heart. That's the real power. That's the quiet confidence that doesn't need to be announced. It simply is. There's a massive distinction between healthy interdependence and unhealthy dependence. Healthy interdependence is where two people bring their best selves to the relationship. They support each other, lean on each other at times, but they are whole on their own. They could survive without each other, but they are stronger, happier, more fulfilled together. Unhealthy dependence is when one or both people feel they need the other to function, to feel okay, to validate their worth. It creates resentment, power struggles, and fear. No man, no matter how loving he is, wants to feel like he's someone's only source of happiness. That's a responsibility too heavy for any one person to carry. When you inspire partnership, you are communicating that you see love as a beautiful choice, not a desperate necessity. You're showing that you want someone who complements your life, not someone to fix it. You're not sitting there thinking, if he doesn't choose me, I'm nothing. You're thinking, if he chooses me, that's beautiful, and if not, my life is still beautiful. That energy is magnetic. It draws him in without you having to chase. It creates space for true connection because it removes the fear that he's being trapped, burdened, or made responsible for your entire emotional well-being. When a man sees that you have your own passions, your own goals, your own inner peace, he respects you more. He feels inspired by you. He doesn't feel like he's losing his freedom by committing to you. He feels like he's gaining a partner who enhances his life. That's what mature love is about. It's not about finding someone to rescue you from loneliness. It's about finding someone who feels like an exciting, meaningful addition to an already meaningful existence. One of the clearest ways to show you're choosing, not needing, is how you handle your emotional world. When you have a bad day, do you crumble and need constant reassurance, Or can you self-soothe and share your feelings without dumping them onto someone else? When you're facing a challenge, do you immediately look for someone to fix it? Or do you take the lead in your own life and seek support when it enhances your strength, not replaces it? Emotional resilience is sexy. It doesn't mean being stoic. It doesn't mean pretending everything is okay when it's not. It means owning your emotions, managing them, and inviting someone in to share the journey, not to carry you through it. Another way this shows up is how you communicate your desires. When you talk about what you want, whether it's your dreams, your future relationship goals, or even the kind of treatment you expect, are you expressing it from a place of confidence or desperation? Confidence says, this is the life I'm building. I'd love for the right person to build it with me. Desperation says, please pick me so I can have a life. Men feel the difference instantly, even if they can't always articulate it. Choosing also shows up in how you handle space and independence in the relationship. A lot of women worry that if they're not constantly available, a man will lose interest. But the opposite is often true. When you maintain your own friendships, your own hobbies, your own growth outside of the relationship, you show him that you're not going to suffocate him. You're showing him that you respect both your independence and his. That gives him room to miss you, to appreciate you, to pursue you with real desire instead of obligation. It also means you're not afraid of healthy conflict. If you're coming from neediness, any disagreement feels like a threat. It feels like, oh no, what if he leaves? What if I lose everything? But when you're choosing, you can have disagreements without fear. You can disagree and still love. You can express your needs and boundaries without making it life or death. That calm, steady energy tells him you're not clinging to the relationship out of fear. You're nurturing it out of strength. An inspiring partnership means you also encourage his growth, not out of a need to change him, but because you believe in his potential. You see him as someone capable, powerful, evolving. You don't see him as broken or incomplete. You don't make his growth your responsibility, and you don't tie your happiness to whether or not he changes. You love him for who he is today, and you trust him to pursue his own growth, just as you're committed to your own. When you're operating from a place of choosing, you naturally have higher standards for how you allow yourself to be treated. You don't accept crumbs, because you don't need a relationship to validate you. You want a relationship that feels good, that adds to your life, that feels like a place of expansion, not contraction. You're willing to walk away from anything that doesn't meet that standard. Not because you're cold or detached, but because you're rooted in the knowledge that love is abundant, not scarce. A man can feel when you're staying because you genuinely want to be there, not because you're afraid of being alone. That makes him feel special in the best way. Not like he's been trapped, but like he's been chosen. It makes him want to rise to the occasion. It makes him want to be worthy of the place you're offering him in your life. It's easy to think that needing someone is romantic. Movies and songs are filled with that idea. I can't live without you, you complete me, you're my everything. But real, lasting love doesn't come from need. It comes from two people who could live without each other, but who are infinitely happier and stronger together. It comes from two full lives intertwining, not two broken halves trying to patch each other up. Partnership is about choosing each other every day, not because you have to, but because you want to. It's about waking up and saying, I choose you again today, not I'm with you because I'm afraid of what life would be without you. That choice, made freely and consciously over and over again, builds a bond that's resilient, passionate, and deeply fulfilling. When a man feels that you're a woman who chooses him but doesn't need him, he feels both safe and challenged. Safe because he knows you're not trying to control or trap him. Challenged because he knows he has to continue to earn your presence, not through anxiety or fear, but through consistent love and effort. That keeps the relationship alive. It keeps both people invested. It keeps the dynamic healthy, exciting, and sustainable over the long term. You also become an example of what real partnership looks like. You show him, through your actions, what it means to build a life together while still being your own person. You inspire him to want the same, to step into a relationship where both people are strong individually and unstoppable together, where love is not about losing yourself, but about finding deeper parts of yourself through connection. This dynamic is what separates fleeting infatuation from lasting love. Infatuation often burns out because it's based on fantasy, on projection, on need. Lasting love endures because it's grounded in reality, in mutual respect, in the continual choice to build and nurture something precious together. And that kind of love, the real kind, is what ultimately makes a man not just want you in his life today, but envision you standing beside him for all the days to come.